funding for the trail plan power lines for our Kiwanis Park, for our Nugent Park, to get new restrooms throughout the city. It helps us obtain funding for development of parks. With that, I will dive into the semi-annual report. So Big River Golf Course, after council approved the fee change, we went live with the annual membership drive. We had 175 members take advantage of the early bird discount. 24 of them are new members. The Marina and RV Park, significant upgrades were made to the RV park restrooms. We are getting great reviews from our guests. PFAS continues to perform at full capacity with a long waiting list. And RV reservations, and our RV reservations went up from 2024 from 2023 by 488 reservations. The Recreation Division. This year will be our 5th year with our NFL flag football team. Our first year we had a total of 48 registrations. Last year we had 80 registrations. This year we have Boardman and Oregon asking to be part of our youth program, and we want to kind of see how we made it grow. So we're kind of getting notice from our neighboring cities. We had our inaugural summer soccer. For our first year, last year, we had 248 registrations. That was pretty big for our first year, and it was great. We had tons of happy people out there in the summertime. It was nice to see a multi-generational sport with all kinds of families out there in the first street on the beach park. Bingo. We started bingo back in 2021 with virtual and in-person bingo. We were lucky to get 20 registrations at that time. Now our adult bingo sells out every time, and we have a total of 63 registrations on Saturday. I popped in here and it was a packed house, and they were vibing, they were having a great time. It's really nice to see people come together and enjoy our programming. Since going live with the community center rentals in November, we had 5 reservations in December. We have more already this year, but I have not included those numbers in that report. This wraps up the semi-annual report. Thank you for your ongoing commitment to our community's health, happiness, and quality of life. Do you guys have any questions for me?
I have 2 golf course. Last year in the budget cycle, we talked about the beach card.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, second. Oh, I'm sorry. So last year we had budgeted a beverage card. Thank you.
Sorry, Dave, I missed 5.7.
No problem. All right, and then just a couple announcements of some things coming up here. So we heard from Parks and Rec earlier. We have just an announcement. So our spring activity guide will be coming out early part of next week, and that'll be our guide that'll take us through spring and into early summer. The final kids bingo for the season is this January the 31st here at the council chambers from 6 to 7:30 p.m. Adult bingo is the following day on the 1st, so that's Friday for the kids, Friday night, Saturday for the adults from 6 to 8 p.m. We have at the community center on February 6th, we have a DIY cake pop. So if you ever wanted to learn how to do those, we do that. We have class at the community center from 6 to 8 p.m. on February the 6th. We have Boots and Hearts Country Line Dancing once again coming up day after Valentine's Day, so you can have a sort of day after Romance Day on February the 15th from 7 to 8 p.m. also at the community center. Flag football registration is open now. By the way, all this information is on our website. If you click on our calendars, if you click on Parks and Rec, or if you click on Library, each of these have their own individual announcement as well as links that can take you to sign up. Each of these programs, you can go to our direct website, umatilla.gov, or you can go to umatillaparksandrec.org. Also, if you are interested, we need volunteers to help us coach for flag football. Each year, we're always needing 1 or 2 coaches short. And so if you're interested in that, trust me, you don't need experience. We'll give you the rule book, we'll give you the training, and we'd love to have you out and participate and help us out with that. Also at the library coming up here towards the end, we have a DIY STEAM program from 4 to 6 p.m. Those are on the 3rd Thursdays of each month. There is a family puzzle competition 3 days from now on the 24th from 4 to 6 p.m. First family to finish their puzzle wins a trophy to celebrate and bragging rights and so on. We're going to probably continue this each month, but there seems to be a lot of interest in that kind of event, and I think that's going to continue to grow. We also have at the end of the month a DIY snow slime, making your own snow slime. So all these are here at the library as well. And then just a reminder for council on Saturday, February the 1st is our council tour and workshop. We'll meet here, we'll grab a burrito, jump on the bus, do a quick tour, and come back and work on some of our workshop items. And then just as a general announcement as well, on Tuesday next week, the 28th, Councilor Funderburk and Wheeler and I will be in Salem for the League of Oregon Cities Day at the Capitol, working with the League of Oregon Cities and other cities throughout the state on working through some of the legislative priorities with the league. We'll have guest speakers. Will include Governor Kotek, Senate President Rob Wagner, Senate Republican leader Daniel Bonham, and several others will be there. We have time scheduled to meet with both Representative Smith and Senator Nash while we were there. Some of the things that we'll be focusing on with some of the league priorities, we'll be talking to them about community infrastructure and in particular about its impact on housing development funding. We'll be working on the 2025 state transportation package, particularly looking at multimodal transportation items. So things that will stabilize funding and operation for all cities and counties throughout the state. And there's several other items as well. One of the other ones they're looking at this year as a priority is a modification to the state lodging tax or transient room tax, looking to expand it. Right now it's very narrow focused to be used for tourism related only items, which is still saying to do that, but as long as it can also be spent, or what they're proposing to have it be spent on is to include public safety, community infrastructure, and even housing, short-term housing rentals as well that can feed that and support that program. Looking at additional funding for shelter funding and homelessness response programs. And we've talked about this a couple times before, operator and training apprenticeships. Specifically, there's a shortage throughout Oregon for qualified water and wastewater operators, those that are looking to have that training. And so they're looking to create a designated earmark and state legislative funding to create those programs. And so we're looking forward to those conversations and see where those go. The other one that's a big priority for the league this year is property tax reform, specifically looking at what can or cannot be done with measures 5 and 50. Now, this has been on the league's priority list for a better part of a decade, but it continues to be a high priority. So we'll be continuing to work with our legislators on possibilities of looking at reform for both of those measures from the 90s. Other than that, it should be a very full and eventful time.
Thanks, Dave. Okay, now we're on to public comment. As a reminder, public comment is an opportunity for citizens to express opinions, raise issues, and provide information to the city council. Comment presented during this segment should be focused on city-related issues and not on items that are scheduled for a public hearing on the same evening's agenda. If you wish to speak, please provide the requested information on the sign-up sheet. Be sure to note the topic on which you wish to speak. When you're at the podium, begin by stating your name and address. You'll have 5 minutes to speak unless otherwise directed. First up, we have Heidi Sipe.
Thank you, Heidi. Yes.
I have one section I forgot to add on there. Please note as well, public comment criticizing city programs and operations are permitted during the segment. However, criticisms of individual city employees is not allowed during public comment period. Concerns regarding individual city employees should be submitted in writing to the city's human resource manager for proper review. Thank you for your cooperation. Okay. Thank you.
Heidi Sipe, 120 Rio Senda. I know some of you are likely thinking, oh, here she goes again, and that's fair. It's fair to you, but it's also fair to me because I feel the same way. As superintendent of our school district, I've been working on trying to get funds for our schools and the other taxing districts in our community for nearly a decade. My first found email on this topic was from November of 2017 when Tamara Mabbitt was first working on this idea and concept for SIP. Since that time, I've had countless emails, conversations, discussions on the need for schools and other taxing districts to be included in the enterprise zone and/or tax abatement programs. I've met with elected officials, I've met with county and city staff, I've met with officials from other taxing districts. I've never given up on the idea that Umatilla will invest in its kids and broader community in ways similar to Morrow and Wasco counties. Yet, here we are. Another year just passed and we still don't have a plan. I think you're tired of my words. So I watched your videos and I read transcripts and I want to share some of your words with you so you can hopefully see how important, challenging, urgent, and really confusing this has been. In March of 2024, I presented the variance and enterprise zone district distribution between the Umatilla model and Morrow and Wasco counties. At that time, City Manager Stockdale stated, quote, "We need to set up these guidelines and criteria," end quote. He continued by explaining the city was like people on an airplane and they need to put their masks on first. He said, quote, "We had to take care of our first things first before we could reach out. That's where we are. Our mask is on. We're reaching out." End quote. He continued, quote, "We need to come up with some sort of criteria and guidelines that's going to guide us forward," end quote, and ended with, quote, "We'll bring you back a very rough draft sometime before Thanksgiving. We need to have something properly done," end quote. Councillor Ten Eyck thanked me for coming in and said, quote, "This is the first time that I've seen information like this in front of me, and I greatly appreciate it. I know that we've had short conversations prior. I'm probably the one that's here that's been a party to that as far as on the council. Again, they were very brief. That was very early on and it was all brand new. You've rung the bell several times on exactly what was going on at that time," end quote. He ended with, "I believe it's important for us to sit down and have a conversation, maybe in a workshop type scenario where we can sit down and have a conversation and talk this through. I think that's very important." Councillor Funderburk stated, quote, "Thank you, Mrs. Sipe. Thank you for your information. We want to make it right," end quote. Councillor Dennis McMillan stated, quote, "I'm definitely going to look into the school district and all the stuff you brought forth here because I mean, a lot of it's just I have no idea what it even so, and I'm definitely going to look into that though and figure out how that works and stuff," end quote. I left full of hope that we'd finally be able to get somewhere and that today, well after Thanksgiving, we'd have a plan. One I could build our budget on, one that I could plan for, one that we could use to invest in kids and our broader community. In July, we had the impacted taxing zone districts in one room. Thank you, Dave. and we had a great starting conversation. We were told to expect monthly meetings with a hopeful plan by the council for the end of the year. Awesome. We ended up meeting twice. I was excited after those meetings. I thought we were making progress. But in August, another presentation was made to the city council. It focused solely on the city's needs and the city's planned projects. Didn't share the various needs of the other taxing districts. It didn't cover how neighboring taxing districts handle the funds. And instead of focusing on distributing funds to the various districts, it focused on how those districts needed to start grant writing and doing a better job of advocating. Again, Councillor Tenike requested a work session with all the districts to better understand the needs. It's now January. We don't have a plan. We don't have any meetings scheduled, and we simply can't afford to let another year go by without a way to ensure that the schools or other taxing districts receive funds. The students of Umatilla cannot wait another 7 years for this to be figured out when students in Morrow County and Wasco County receive money from the enterprise zones. Over $1 million last year in Morrow County from the enterprise zone to the school district. Umatilla's amount last year, 0. We are not competitors. I'm proud of the work you're doing. I loved hearing what your leaders were talking about that the city is doing. It's fabulous. But the radio district, the fire district, the hospital district, we're all trying to do fabulous work too. We're all trying to support the work of the growth. The only difference is you're getting money to do it and we're not. Let's please work to get a work session going with a deadline, get it on the books so we can work together to create a model for enterprise zone fund distribution that not only benefits the city of Umatilla and the county of Umatilla, but also serves as an example for other communities to follow. I'm eager to partner with you. I've been ready since 2017. We can do something amazing. Let's go.
Thank you. Next up, we have got Kyle Sipe. Please make sure you state your name and address for the council.
Kyle Sipe, 120 Rio Senda, Umatilla. I'm the Rural Fire Protection District Board Chair. At the December meeting, I heard you mention how embarrassing it was to listen to the July Enterprise Zone meeting, and it made me confused. I was there, and I didn't hear anything that I would think was embarrassing. So I reviewed all 2+ hours of it again, and I get it now. The meeting recording showed over 20 people all caring about our community. It also showed taxing districts frustrated to never before be at the table for conversations about the funding, despite frequently asking. There was appreciation for the city and county for all the work that they have done. None of the taxing districts were out to get as much as they could for themselves. There's a real push for a distributive share that we could count on, could budget on, and that we could use to meet the increasing needs, all because of the growth. I understand that it could be embarrassing for you to hear the feedback from all the taxing districts. It would be tough to hear that the city has changed building options to allow for taller buildings without accounting for the lack of the fire department to have a ladder truck to reach those people in need at higher altitudes. Without other funds, this decision forces us to consider a bond to keep people safe. This is especially challenging as the police station is also important, yet on the agenda tonight, you're now considering a bond despite discussing at the March meeting that the police station will not require a bond and the minutes stating, quote, "This project will not be a general obligation bond for the community," end quote. It could be embarrassing to know that the amount that this city loses in a one weekend music event is almost exactly the same as the fire department's annual budget. So 3 days of fun against saving lives for an entire year is not such a tough decision in my opinion, and I'm guessing that was a shock to you as well. It would be hard to hear that you assume the fire department doesn't respond to calls to data center facilities. But Chief Grant quickly explained that, in fact, the fire department does have to respond to those calls. And since 2020, the fire district has had a 31% increase in emergency responses, all with no money from the enterprise zone. I can understand it would be embarrassing to know that the essential services like mosquito control education and workforce development programs, and public safety radio communications are underfunded in Umatillo's enterprise zone, especially when neighboring communities share these funds to support similar services. It would have been embarrassing to hear that this disparity raises questions about this council's commitment to investing in the overall well-being of the community. It also would have been embarrassing to hear the city manager explain that the council has been responsible for the decisions to keep the funds. To hear that he presented the options to you, shown you the comparisons to the other districts, and explained that it is likely time to adjust the way things are done, but that you haven't yet taken action to develop a different plan. We know these are your decisions because it was clearly stated by City Manager Stockdale, quote, "The council knows all about this. They've approved every single resolution, every negotiation tactic," end quote. I know you all work hard for Umatilla. This isn't about being embarrassed. It's about working together. We need to listen to each other and find a way to share the money so that everyone can do their jobs better. Let's make Umatilla a model for how to do this right. Let's show everyone that we care about the whole community. I know you do, and I'm asking you to work to make this happen.
Thank you. Thank you. Next, we have Darla Huxell. Nancy, are you keeping time or am I? Okay, I'll stop then. Thank you.
Carla Huxell, 415 Stevens. First of all, I always appreciate you guys donating your time. I recognize they're all volunteer positions, and I understand that you have difficult decisions to make, and I appreciate that. Always have, always will. As a member, a board member on 2 special districts, I've been faced with tough decisions as well. I told you since I retired last year that I would continue to come and talk about enterprise zones and and special districts in particular. So that's why I'm here. One of the things I did notice that next week at the Planning Commission, Amazon is going to be doing something with property. To me, when I see that, all I see is continued infrastructure. It's going through the city. I don't know that this property that they're talking about is necessarily in the city, but it is in the urban growth boundary. All I ask is, number one, that you pay attention and be good conservators of our water. And secondly, please consider having some conversations with the special districts. That's all I ask. And if you don't want to, then just come right out and say so we can stop going back and forth, you know, well, you said, he said, she said type stuff. If you're not interested and you have no plans on doing anything like that, then come right out and say it so we can get on to the next business. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Next up, we have got Toby Cranston, please.
Hello, everyone. Toby Cranston, 80935 Cooney Lane. As a Umatilla High alum, longtime supporter of our town, and school board member of 24 years, I'm here to ask more transparency about how enterprise zone money is being used. It is exciting to see Umatilla growing with the new parks and recreation and improvements throughout our town. But I also want to understand how decisions are being made and about the enterprise zone funds. My friends in Morrow County tell me about their great things they're doing with their enterprise zone money, supporting schools and other services. I looked into how Umatilla has used those funds and have some questions. The city website shows that you approved an agreement with SABI in May of 2023. It includes some money for the public safety and education, and I'm thankful for that. But while those groups are splitting not quite 150,000 a year, 2 million over 5 years will go to the hospital and a walking trail. I'm not sure how those amounts were decided. I want to understand why the hospital and a walking trail were prioritized over fire department and schools. Why is Umatilla approach so different than Morrow County's? I think the hospital and trails are great, but are they more urgent than our schools and public safety? I'd like to see a meeting with all taxing districts to discuss this. Let's work together and create a transparent process so everyone understands how these funds are being used. We've been blessed with this opportunity, and we need to make sure it benefits our entire community.
Thank you, Mr. Cranston. Next up, we have Josiah Barron.
Josiah Barron, 457 Stevens Avenue. I just wanted to share a few of my thoughts also about the enterprise zones. I've had the interesting perspective of being a part of several different special districts. I used to work for a mosquito control district, so I see that side of things, and also have had the opportunity to serve on the school board, so seeing that side of things as well. I think that when it comes to, first, I also want to add to what others had said. Thank you. It's been growing up in Umatilla. It's been great to see all the changes and the growth that has happened in Umatilla. And Parks and Rec's doing a stellar job. City staff, council, thank you all for that. It's from the chamber's perspective too. It's been great seeing all that. But when it comes, so of course, I wanted to recognize, yes, the city has no legal requirement or obligation to distribute the enterprise zone funds to other special districts. But as we're growing and as we're working together, each one of the special districts, whether it's the school district, fire district, mosquito control, the city, we each play a different part in helping the community grow as a whole. And as we work together, I think creating a task force and moving forward in coming up with a plan, as was discussed, of distributing the enterprise zones would be a great show of doing it in the spirit of community collaboration. And the other thing I just wanted to add is I also think it would actually be in alignment with many of the council goals that you have set forth. For example, if you look at goal number 3 is to enhance, cultivate relationships, partnerships, and community perceptions, with one of the desired outcomes being, quote, to cultivate current partnerships and to expand partnerships that will help achieve goals 1 and 2. I think working together with even enhancing the relationship with all the different special districts and seeing how to distribute the enterprise zone funds for the betterment of the whole community would be in line with your goals, as well as I said before, just to finish, each different district is coming together in their own way to enhance the quality of life and improvements within the city. So just consider having more discussions about that and taking a look at how the enterprise zone funds could be used in the spirit of collaboration with the other special districts. Thank you.
Thanks, Josiah.
Next up, we have got Mark Browning.
Mark Browning, 2411 Northwest Carden, Pendleton, Oregon. Thank you for the opportunity to be here tonight. I'm here in my capacity as president and CEO of Blue Mountain Community College, and we want to be firmly on the public record that we are strongly in support of lending our input and perspective on a transparent and collaborative process. We have found that over the years, the efforts that where we have been involved in such processes have really resulted in great things for the communities that we serve. Our district runs from Huntington on the east to the Arlington Hill, from the river to John Day. Umatilla, the city of Umatilla, is a very big part of this in looking at the growth that you're experiencing here and where the future of our organization will go. We need to have a bigger presence here. And to do that, we need help. And we look at how we work with some of the other zones that are within those areas. And it has been a very collaborative process. We've worked through some challenges. And my commitment to you tonight is, let's put it together. Let's put things down on the table and say, what can we do? Where do we want this community to go? And we would welcome the opportunity to be a part of that. Education is the key forward. I have been quoted as saying something very strange for a college president. Not everybody needs to go to college, but everybody needs training. Our children need training. We need training. Everyone in this room needs training. It's lifelong learning, and that happens through opportunity. Opportunity happens when there's access to knowledge and skill. That's what these enterprise zones can help deliver to your citizens here. Please count on Blue Mountain to help in any way we possibly can. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Brown.
Thank you.
Next, we have Leslie Klostro.
Hi, Leslie Klostro, 344 Bob White Avenue. And first of all, I just want to commend everyone for coming up here to talk. It's scary. I don't want to do this again. So I hope this is the last time. I also want to say that I understand the weight of your decisions. I myself am a public official. I've been a public official for almost 11 years. So I understand that you guys have a lot of important decisions to make and how important those decisions can impact the folks that you guys help us. So good evening, Mayor and council members. I stand before you today, not just as the chair of the Umatilla School Board, but as someone deeply rooted in this community. I was raised here and attended our schools and ultimately chose to raise my children here as well. Growing up in Umatilla, it meant feeling valued. We knew that, we knew the adults in our community were invested in our well-being, that they wanted to protect us and provide opportunities and genuinely cared. Lately, however, I have been feeling a growing sense of disappointment. It's disheartening to see how our city is handling the enterprise zone funds. Neighboring communities like Morrow County and the Dalles prioritize their children and recognize the vital role of all taxing districts in building a thriving community. Our city and county chose to keep it all. Why are my children worth less to you than Morrow County's children are to their elected officials? The children in this community are amazing. They are worth the investment. This isn't about legalities. It's about doing what's right. You're legally allowed to keep the funds. There's no question about that. But how can that be justified when our schools and other taxing districts have been left out of the blessing these investment funds could mean to the community as a whole? We all face obligations in fostering the growth of Umatilla, yet only the city and county are receiving funds to do so. AWS provides curriculum and supplies to build workforce skills, but the school district bears the burden of staffing those classes. We've had to reroute our fund dollars to ensure our children are ready to enter a workforce in the community that's dominated by tech opportunities. We're carrying the load for workforce development, yet the city and county offer no financial acknowledgement of this contribution. I reviewed your August discussions on this matter. Instead of exploring how other zones invest in their communities and support their taxing districts, the focus was solely on the city's needs. Every taxing district has needs. To assume the city's needs are more crucial without even considering others is simply unjust. The school district has been raising this concern since 2018. At the July meeting, the city manager stated, "I guess I'm arrogant." This is a quote, by the way. "I guess I'm arrogant enough to say we can do better. I think we can come up with a way in which we approach this from a regional approach," end quote. He's right. Why are you stopping him from doing what's right? I urge you to reconsider. Let's return to the collaborative spirit that I where we all invested in our children's future. Let's prioritize our kids and invest in all taxing districts that contribute to our community. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Mark Mulvihill.
They always say to watch your back, so I don't know about you standing there. You have my back or not. I'm going to lighten things up a little bit here in a minute. But I'm Mark Mulvihill. I'm the superintendent of Intermountain ESD. Put down the ESD's address because I live in Pendleton, 2001 Southwest 9. Toby, I saw your shirt that said 1863. Where are you? My favorite line was always, "To the great impactful events in American history occurred in 1863. Gettysburg Address and creation of Umatilla ESD. Now I have to say Umatilla as well. I need to get here a little quicker because then I won't have to repeat or rewrite this every time because everybody in front of me has basically said the same type of message. I do have some experience with the enterprise zones working with Morrow County. So I've been in this job for 16 years. And during the Morrow County process, we were heavily involved in that right off the bat. So stakeholders were included in the conversation. We looked at all the pros and cons. How do we develop it? How do we make local decision-making with all of the taxing entities involved? That didn't occur here. I thought we were making headway with that in July. I don't know where we are today. It is becoming budget time, but I would really encourage us, I don't want to repeat what was already said. I think it's critical that we look at this locally, that we look at these dollars. In Morrow County, they made a heavy commitment to involve stakeholders early and then distribute dollars through CREZ each year for making sure every entity was covered. And I have that list right here. Right now, and I realize Morrow County is much larger, okay? And so when you look at this, my conversation would be encouraging this on percentage scale, but Morrow County allocates $16 million right now. Intermountain ESD, we receive $88,000 every year. We take those dollars and we return it right back to that school district. So for instance, how we're using that money this year is to pay transportation for our preschool students. So again, it's kind of been repeated. What my big ask for you tonight would be, it's really important that we have a participatory process when it affects taxing entity. You are involved in that, and you should be at the table helping to facilitate a process. And again, trying to reinvest whatever the goals are at a local level. And so I appreciate the time tonight, appreciate all the testimony before, and I sure hope we can move forward for our students in Umatilla because at the end of the day, those dollars stay here for our kids and for our future. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next, Steve Ward.
Steve Ward, 30772 Bowden Lane. The last time that I was here at City Council, I had the privilege to moderate the 2020 council debate. And the room was fuller today than what it was for that debate. So kind of interesting. Also, again, don't mean to sound like a broken record, but hats off to all the improvements and the things that have happened since the last time that I was here. So good evening, Mayor, City Council members. I'm here tonight to discuss the sharing of enterprise zone funds and how we can work together to create a more equitable and reasonable system for our entire community. I recently reviewed the August meeting where this topic was discussed. I heard your offers to assist with grant writing and legislative lobbying, and I appreciate that sentiment. However, I believe there's a fundamental misunderstanding about the school district's capacity and needs in these areas. As a newer board member, I was surprised to learn the Umatilla School District does not have a paid grant writer, but our superintendent and her team have a long history of successful grant writing and advocacy. Our current budget includes over 13 million in grants and other secured funds to help us do more than our 20.7 million general fund would allow. On top of that, we have 45.2 million bond to support construction projects. While more help is always appreciated, the school district knows how to leverage funds and write grants. We're also no strangers to advocacy. Our school board members have presented at Ways and Means, prepared legislative testimony, and advocated for schools at both the state and national levels. Our superintendent serves on numerous state and national committees, and Superintendent Sipe has been appointed to state commissions and boards by Governors Kitzhaber, having a problem with that one, Brown and Kotek. We are well represented legislatively. We've had students testify before legislative committees and visit with legislators in Salem, Washington, D.C. National and state bills have even been written based on the success of the Umatilla School District. Again, we are not lacking in grant writing or advocacy skills or experience. What we need is a fair share of the enterprise zone funds to leverage and maximize those efforts. Other zones do it, and we need Umatilla to do it as well. I urge you to consider a collaborative approach. Let's work together to develop a plan for distributing enterprise zone funds that recognize the needs and contributions of all taxing districts. This isn't about pitting the city against schools or any other entity. It's about ensuring that we all have the resources to support our community's growth and provide the best possible services to our residents. Again, I'm thankful for everything that the Umatilla City Council does. I know that each of you are advocates for youth in our community and support strong education program. Darren, you've been, an assistant coach. And of course, we have like school teacher experience. And I could take the time to go through with each of you and how you support, for the community's growth and well-being. And as a certified holistic cancer coach, this is a statement that I've said many times. You can change your world by simply changing your perception. It appears that this city council's perception of the use of the enterprise zone funds should not include education, public safety, and other taxing zones. I would like to suggest that we schedule a work session where we can openly discuss the needs of each taxing district and explore how enterprise zone funds can be used to address those needs collectively. Let's create a system that's fair, transparent, and benefits all. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ward. Next, we've got Brent Mueller.
Good evening, Brett Mueller. And I put my work address there also, 4700 Northwest Pioneer Place, Pendleton. I am the administrator for the Umatilla Morrow Radio and Data District, which is one of those strange, long-named special districts out there that appears on certain people's property taxes. We do provide two-way radio communications for all your public safety, law, fire and EMS agencies throughout pretty much all of Umatilla and Morrow counties, with the notable exception of Milton Freewater, which opted to not be part of the district. A few years ago, we spent a few $100,000 to invest in equipment into a site to help improve coverage in the city of Umatilla, and that was with obviously no assistance from any of the other funding that might have been involved with enterprise zone monies. But we do quite a bit with very little budget. We try to make things stretch as much as we can, and with Myself, a technician and an office assistant to support 15 radio sites throughout the two counties, about 1,200 radios out there that are about $2,000 a piece. Each one of those radio sites has equipment ranging from $500,000 to $1 million inside, and it adds up. It's a lot to keep going. Mainly, I'm here to put my just to be a face for the radio district and for you to be kind of considering that. It's not something that you would normally think of with public safety, and yet we do support your local, as well as any of your mutual aid partners that might come in to assist Umatilla Fire or come in to assist the city police department for communications. We have great interoperability between all of the departments, and anything you can do to kind of help facilitate our ability to improve communications to as the population grows and agencies add personnel and vehicles, and we need to purchase more radios and support more radios. The dispatch centers that go in, those are very expensive. We do purchase and maintain equipment for those as well. So please keep us in mind, and thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. And then lastly, here I've got a written statement from Heather Estrada at 4255 Main Street in Pendleton, Oregon 97802. Dear Umatilla City Councilors and Mr. Mayor, I'm writing in support of a more equitable and transparent use of the enterprise zone monies. The enterprise zones are created to set up a tax break for large corporations to encourage them to bring their businesses to our area. So in lieu of paying taxes that would go to all of the taxing districts, the corporations are excused from paying large sums. The tax money they're required to pay is currently being distributed to only the county and the city of Umatilla, completely cutting out all other taxing districts. To add insult to injury, many districts, specifically and most dramatically, the fire district, the hospital district, and the school district are now servicing those areas, and the people who live in these areas as a result of those businesses, and yet are provided no tax monies to help fund these essential services. This is simply not right. Ms. Sipe has provided an excellent example of a county, Morrow County, just down the road, who has come up with a much more equitable and reasonable use of these same tax monies, and the county of Umatilla should be moving to do the same. While Umatilla County may not have the same straightforward scenario, as there are more districts involved, there must be some effort to distribute these tax monies among the districts who are required to serve the people, properties, and areas encompassed by the enterprise zone. As it is now the beginning of budget season, these meetings, discussions, and decisions, which were promised in the late summer, needed to happen as soon as possible. While the Umatilla County Special Library District does not believe we specifically should be entitled to any of the city's share of these funds, we stand in support of the districts who absolutely should be entitled to part of these tax monies, and hope that you will see the desperate need to support fire, school, hospital, and other districts who cannot serve the people of Umatilla well without the funding from these enterprise zones. Thank you for your consideration of these vital and essential services. Heather. And that concludes this evening's first public comment. Moving on to 9.1, the Umatilla Business Center project update.
Consent items, sir.
It's
It's okay. It's okay.
December 17th, 2024 minutes, and then 7.3, January 7th, minutes from 2025. Can we pass the consent agenda as one solid item, please? I'm looking for a motion at this time. If there's any other questions. No questions? I'm looking for a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion that we approve consent agenda items 7.1, 7.2, and 7.3, December 3, December 17, and January 7 minutes as presented.
Thank you. Can I get a second to the motion, please?
I'll second
the motion.
Bruce. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you very much. Okay, now over to the Business Center update. Brandon, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So I'll just give a brief introduction, and then we also have representatives from CTC, Cliff Thorne Construction, who is our contractor, who is doing all the work over at the Business Center for us, as well as Mark Cedar, who is our architect with this project. As we had previously presented to the council, the original idea was to save the shell of the existing post office building. As unfortunately happens with older buildings, especially one as we got deeper and deeper into the building, and I'll let CTC get into that in a little bit more detail, we just kept unearthing problems. So I'll let our contractor and Mark go over it, but we are ultimately looking to replace the existing post office building with a new build. So that would mean we would essentially tear down the existing shell and then replace that with a new structure that will be much more longer lasting and give us a much better finished product. But I will turn it over to Jennifer and Travis from CTC first and let them run through some of the things that they've discovered out in the field.
Can we just put duct tape on it? Nothing. I'm sorry, I'm being funny. Wasn't funny.
So hi, my name is Jen Pendleton. I work for Cliff Thorne Construction. I'm here with Travis McCracken. He is my superintendent on the project. I know that you guys have worked really hard on putting this together over, I've heard, like the last 6 years, and we're honored to be the contractors that are heading it up. We were really trying hard to tie into that existing building, but as we're doing the selective demo, we're finding that there's more problems and solutions to making this building actually work. The roof structure is, I mean, the trusses are rolling. We don't have roof choice on it. All of the plywood that's on there is delaminating and just really disintegrating. It's nothing that we can really tie into, which is called for in the plans as we speak. We also have issues that when we were cutting out on the east wall for openings for future doors and windows, there is no, that's hollow CMU block, and so there is no support throughout it for us to actually tie into with overhead doors. Windows are not structurally sound to take on the load, so we would have to put lentils and jams and you name it to try to bring this up to code. This building is 70 years old. It doesn't meet any of the of today's codes that we would need to meet. The footings on the building are hollow CMU blocks that are turned on their side. Some of them aren't even at frost depth at this point. So as we get further into it, I mean, we want to do this right for the community. It's a really big project. It's been in the works for a really long time. For a quality project that's going to last for a very long time. And I don't foresee that happening. Not to mention that we need to be able to pass inspections along the way. And at this point, I don't foresee us being able to pass those inspections as we come along. I think CTC, you know, we want to do this project right. We have our name on it. Our subs have also come to us so far that we've had on the site and brought up issues. So we are suggesting to take it down completely, demo it, get it out of there, and then start new and make sure that you have a good building that's going to last for many, many, many years to come for the community. So I don't know, that's kind of all that I have that we have uncovered so far. And then do we ask Mark to come up now?
Yeah, but Mark, did you have a couple of things you wanted to add? I guess I should have just added at the beginning, we do have contingency to cover the change order amount that is in your packet there at just under $600,000. So this isn't going to be in a budget, and we wouldn't need to amend the budget to be able to complete this even with the change orders. We would not.
I mean, there's no, go ahead if you got something to say before I start asking questions. I apologize.
I'm finished with what Travis, do you have anything that you wanted to add?
Just as a brief introduction, I've been in this industry for a very, very, very long time, well over 4 decades. Grew up in Eastern Washington down in the Tri-Cities, so this is kind of our backyard. It's as Jennifer mentioned, we are excited beyond belief to have been awarded this contract. The exposure that this project will present, the activities and the opportunities that this facility will allow the community goes beyond what we started out with. As Jennifer mentioned, the more we got into this during the demolition phases, we just found out that the existing structure just doesn't have the integrity that was expected of it. It is 70 years old and it shows. After numerous on-site meetings, Mr. Strickland's been there, Jared's been there, Kevin Roth. I drag him into any time we turn over a stone, I call Kevin. And they're just things that, from our professional point of view, that we need to bring to the city's attention to make sure that this finished product will last another 70 years. Because the two-story facility that will be going to the north of it is an absolutely standout, exemplary piece of architectural work. And I'll applaud Mark and his associates with Cedar and all the other folks involved in this. There have been numerous conversations, countless ideas presented about what we could do with what was there. And the bottom line just came out, for the investment that the city is willing to make with the multiple funding entities that you guys have been able to get on board. Our bottom line is just thinking that to give the city what they want, something that you can utilize and be proud of. And believe you me, when this thing's done, you're going to be proud of it. So thank you very much. Mark Cedar is the architect of record. So if you guys have any specific questions for Jennifer or myself as the boots on the ground or the hands in the air, whatever you want to call it.
No, I mean, I'm kind of interested to hear what he has to say.
Okay. All right. Excuse me? Oh, Travis McCracken, Project Superintendent with CTC.
Thanks. Mark Cedar, Cedar Architecture and Urban Design. We're the architects and the lead consultant of the A&E team. That's architect and engineering team that the city retained to do this project. And we had done a number of other similar projects, Maupin Civic Center in Maupin, Oregon. And we're working on other projects in this area. So it's always look forward to come out to Umatilla in Northeast Oregon about once a week, actually. So a couple of things. I don't know if the city staff did any handouts or anything or there's any need to show the floor plan.
Yeah, we've seen all that.
Yeah.
You bet.
And what we're talking about here, which is basically 1/3 of the project building. The building itself is just a portion of the overall project, including the plaza and the parking lot, the pedestrian walkway, that kind of thing, and street improvements. So, yeah, and it shows it right up there. So it's a 1-story existing building portion of the overall new business center. And just as a little bit of context in our work with the city leading up to the project being awarded the final funding and bidding and the award of the project to CTC, we did engage our team, including structural engineers and systems engineers. And I think there was a good bit of sentiment that should try to save that building. There are various reasons to save an existing building. There are various reasons not to. So we did our level best, and our structural engineers very fortunately separated the two structures so that just with a little gap between them, they're structurally independent. They work together when the final project is built for all circulation, fire and life safety systems, but structurally they're independent. So that's very fortunate because that means that CTC is going to be able, if that's the final decision, to remove that building, that existing building, and build it new right on the same footprint, basically the same floor plan, because the floor plan was worked out with the city and seemed to work just fine. So we'll be able to rebuild that same building, 40 by 100, just like it is now. But it'll have new walls, new systems, most importantly, a new roof. The roof, wrote down some of the advantages that you will gain by building that new. New roof will be stronger than the existing. We'll be able to cover the whole roof with solar if there was that opportunity. We couldn't do that with the existing roof at all. Just was too weak, and we knew that, so we carefully worked around that.
So I guess my question would be, sir, are you done?
What's that?
Are you done? I'm sorry. I don't mean to interrupt you. I'm sorry.
Well, there are just a number of advantages that you will gain from building new. Yes, it will cost more, would have cost if the existing was saved, reused. And our plans were to do that, and we had the permit and had gone through that process and everything else. But I think like Travis and Jen were saying, there have just been a lot of discoveries, things that couldn't be seen, even despite our preliminary reports on the building, things that they've uncovered that just seem to have tipped the balance, that it just seems like it's a better move at this point to build new. And fortunately, we have the floor plan and everything else that works. So it's just a matter of us taking that and basically building a new structure where the existing one is, making some improvement. Building new, but basically having a building with the full lifespan that it should have for an all new building. So yeah, any questions? Be great.
Yeah, my biggest question is, how come we didn't see this beforehand?
I'd say we did.
Then why didn't we have it in the budget in the first place, sir?
We had a report done by our structural engineers. They came out. They knew that the building was unreinforced masonry. They designed and engineered around that. So we had a structure that would stand up and met all codes. It did receive permits. But I just think there have been too many discoveries that couldn't be seen, that couldn't be anticipated. I'll add that the city staff did quite a bit of work and due diligence to try to locate plans of that building that we could have possibly used, and there were just none available. So I think there was just
I completely understand that, but at the end of the day, what you specifically said a minute ago is that your structural engineers knew that there was a problem. We've been doing this for 6 years. We've been working on this for 6 years, sir. It isn't like we rushed through the process. So now we're expected to come up with another $600,000 on top of this when we knew it was going to happen. Why didn't we budget in the front half instead of in the ninth hour? Here we are with halfway through the project, and now we have to come up with $600,000 more money. I don't know how that works. I'm not a construction guy, but I know when I built my house, I had to go in front of a structural engineer. They had to tell me what I had to do, and we did it. And that was a remodel and an addition to the house. So with that in mind, I understand that things happen. I completely understand with construction at 100%. But $600,000.
And on top of that, how much did we pay for abatement? Because we paid a ton for abatement for that building to be able to utilize it. I mean, how much did we spend in abatement to be able to utilize it?
Yeah. Yeah.
There's probably some added cost to not.
Yeah.
I'm not tear it down. Yeah.
And I appreciate the fact that we wanted to try and save the building, has a lot of significance in our community, 100%. But again, here we are. eh, I don't know.
Is there other concerns now on the site? Like, have we checked soil density? Like, now that we're here, have we checked everything else that could possibly go wrong?
The city, as is normal procedures, engaged a geotechnical engineer who did do soils tests. In fact, they've been out, they've met with both the contractor and the city and ourselves to go over that soils test and that soils report, make sure that it was consistent with what's been uncovered to date. And so I think that tested out with no significant surprises as far as the soils recommendations.
Mr. Mayor, Councilor Duffloff, if I can jump in here a little bit. To your question a little bit, we did look very hard at seeing if we could use duct tape or if there were things we could do to add in a little bit of additional structural stability to keep the existing building intact. It's just as we started going through request after request and we're having to add in some things to maybe modify some of the original plans to make sure we were going to have a sound structure. We were starting to near like $300,000 in potential changes to come in and reinforce that existing building. So staff at that point felt where we're, nearly half of the design cost to have a brand new building and have a brand new structure, that was worth bringing it back to council to see if it was a federal alternative, and certainly staff believes it is, to come back in and start over new. That certainly will make, I know both me, myself, and Kevin's also here. If you have any specific structural questions, we wanted to make sure we had all the experts in the room to be able to answer your questions. To your point, some of these things maybe could have been brought up sooner, but some of the things, to your point, is also just discovery in the field just continued to compound the issue, which just as the growing list of requests or, the potential need for additional change orders, if we were working to keep the existing structure kept mounting, it became more and more clear to staff that we were probably needed to cut our losses. And then, like I said, at this point, we will more or less knock down the existing building. A new shell will go up in its place. There will be no other changes to the floor planning staff. In fact, we'll actually gain a couple of square feet because we're not working around CMU blocks. The walls will be a little bit narrow. So there are some other benefits having a new roof to be able to accommodate solar. There are some positive changes. But that it was just the cost differential between the new building and the potential change orders to bring everything back up to code, only being at a $300,000 difference. We felt that warranted bringing that back to council for discussion.
$300,000 more or less?
So it would be $300,000 more to go completely new. So we were looking at approximately $300,000-ish to have to go back in and reinforce some of the things that were discovered in the field.
Yeah, and I don't disagree. I'm not saying we have to do what we have to do. I just don't like being in this position when we paid somebody millions of dollars to design it, to engineer it, and now we're having to fork out another $600,000 because potentially they missed something. That's kind of how I feel. And I don't know that that's right. I don't.
And my other concern is, did we miss it or did they miss it?
No, I don't. That's not their job. That's the engineer's job. That's the structural engineering.
Right, but we approved the permits though.
Huh?
We approved the permits.
No, I get that. But at the end of the day,
So, I mean, if we approve the permits in-house, we approve the plans, we approve the permits in-house.
and if they didn't come in and say, hey, look, we need, if they would have came in the front side and said, hey, look, we need to tear this down, that we would have been in a better spot.
So-
That's my whole point.
Maybe just a little context around there. When the building department is reviewing plans, we are looking to make sure things meet structural code.
Yeah.
And a structure like this, typically that is relying on the design professionals who have stamped the plans, that we will take their certifications and that they have reviewed the necessary things. So that's how we got to the approved plans. And I think you heard Mark say they still believe that they could salvage the building if that is ultimately the way, that we could go in and we could reinforce a few things and we could get there if that's the direction that council would like to go. So why there are very significant concerns around the existing building, some of them brought up with, discoveries on the footings that we didn't have exposed and some of those other things. There is a process where city staff is not allowed to design things. So we don't have those certifications. In fact, me and Kevin have to work very hard a lot of times, even, with the homeowner, we can't tell you how to design something. We have to stay out of the design. We just do the inspection side.
And please understand, I'm only questioning the fact that when we pay somebody that significant amount of money, that it wasn't taken care of on the front half and not the back. That was my only thought. Yes, sir.
Yep. Microphone, Kevin. Thank you.
As we started excavation, we noticed that there was no footings under this building, this existing building. That was only discovered after excavation, which obviously couldn't be done or was not done prior to the plans and planning this project. Additionally, when we started cutting into the CMU walls for the new windows and doors that were going to be added, we discovered that the interior walls of that CMU building had no mortar at all and no steel reinforcement. So those are major, major concerns. And as Brandon was saying, when we started looking at the cost of the RFIs to go in there and fix that stuff that was a problem that was not discovered until we got into the ground and into the walls, it's going to be close to $300,000, like he's saying. And to basically redo the shell. That's all we're doing is redoing the shell. Just the outside exterior walls, put new footings under it, and do wood construction is going to be that difference. I've been at this for 49 years. I've been in construction, 30 of those as an inspector, supervisor, inspectors, and a building official. And the issues that I'm seeing with that building, the things I had seen to the Brandon's attention. So,
Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin.
And again, I'm not questioning anybody's expertise. I'm not by any means at all. I'm merely stating, and I maybe it sounds redundant, but we spent millions of dollars to a designer, a structural engineer, and here we are $600,000 more in a project. And that's the only thing. I mean, it's a catch-22. We don't have a choice. Honestly, I think there are backs against the wall. We have to do it, but I just wanted to be on the record that I don't blame the city staff at all. I think it lays strictly in the hands of the structural engineer. But that's just my opinion. To me, if you're going to do a building such as this, maybe you go in and look at the walls. Maybe you look at stuff. If you don't have plans, then put your eyes on it. Because to me, they know that building is almost as old as me. It's old. So they know that things were different back then. So these guys know that. They have education for that. I do not.
Maybe, I think maybe a couple of things here.
Okay.
One is, our engineers did do a field reconnaissance or an observation trip. They did know that the walls were as near as they could tell, and they couldn't drill every single, wall and drill it in every concrete block, but they did know that the walls were unreinforced masonry, and they designed around that. They structured, let's say, at the large opening out to the plaza, there's steel around that opening specifically to reinforce that opening. And then, like I say, the new steel building, the two-story building, is totally structurally independent. So they did do all of that. And by the way, our fee was considerably way under $1 million. We were less than $500,000. And so
I apologize about that.
No.
Typically,
I
anything you do with commercial-
understand. There were footings under there of sorts, but what they had done evidently when the CTC was able to actually get down and open it up was they turned concrete blocks on their side for footing.
Oh, trust me, sir, you're in Umatilla.
Yeah, we've seen it all.
kinds of stuff. It's okay.
We're not
I understand. So we all did a little
Make it
scrambling.
work.
We all did a little scrambling at that point, and our engineer said, okay, let's just take your new floor slabs and the sidewalk, let them go right down into those blocks. We can live with that. Then they are okay footings if you'll just do that bit of construction, that'll kind of come naturally. But I think even with that, it just seems like, as Brandon was saying, and I think CTC is saying, there are just a lot of issues. It still could be used as a shell and continue to build with it, but there were just a lot of issues. So I think
Well-
that's a the trade-off at this point.
I think, again, I think we don't really have a choice at this point. It's to the point where it is what it is, and we just have to go through it. Yeah, unfortunately. That's my opinion. There's more up here than me, but
I agree.
Bruce, you have any other comments?
You know, I mean, it's not unforeseeable. It's unfortunate. I mean, I think, you know, I'm sitting in the cheap seats here. I think I think the lesson for all of us in the future, you know, if we're looking at something, I think there's a innate desire for us to keep history rather than throw it away. And there's a desire to want to do that. But I think when we're looking at contracts in the future, we probably need to be a little bit smarter about asking questions about, you know, hey, we'd like to do this, but what are the risks? And you know, instead of, you know, like I said, I got a cheap seat here, and I mean, we're going to have to do this. There's really no choice. It doesn't make sense to continue with something that's way substandard and we get embarrassed about.
Right.
But you know, maybe a little bit more clarity in the front end. I mean, I don't know construction, but just listening to this, it's like, okay, I mean, clearly people knew there were potential issues in the first, and maybe it just wasn't, you know, hey, we'd like to have this, but what, you know, if we demolish in a manner to keep this and we find out that it's untenable, what extra money have we cost?
Right.
Yeah. Corinne, do you have anything to add? Okay. I just have one quick question. This is more of a Melissa geared question. Sorry, Brandon. Melissa, in the contingency fund, we mentioned that we can absorb this cost. What percentage of our contingency fund do we have left? Does this fund tap in anything else, or is it purely just for this project?
Oh, just the project. So fortunately, since we originally estimated the project, the construction market got a lot more favorable and bids came in on the project way lower than we thought we were going to. We had a total of about $8.3 million allocated for this project. CTC's original bid was $4.8 million. We do have quite a bit of owner furnished items still left that are the responsibility of the city. So we have that, but we're in pretty good shape. What we were concerned about is if we continued to put lipstick on to try to fix the old building, that these change orders would end up eventually exceeding the $600,000 mark. And we were kind of just nervous about what that would look like, but we're definitely okay here. We've also reached out to the EDA to let them know that we have these proposed change orders to get their approval to move forward, and just making sure that all of our funders are aware.
Yeah, we have federal dollars tied to this too, where that's all been
through EDA. Yes.
Okay, that's all been taken care of. We're okay with that. Like, they're not going to pull federal funding.
Yeah, the only portion of the old building that was actually EDA eligible was the meeting room. And as long as the scope and the purpose of that room doesn't change, then there's no modifications that we have to do with our EDA funding.
Great. Any further questions, council?
Just one more thing.
Go for it, Aaron.
I think it's good that we go move forward with it. History lesson. There's a reason why we don't have urinals in the bathroom here. It's because we had too many change orders on this building. So that's just what it is. So there's no bathrooms in it. Take the bathrooms out. No more.
Get a bucket.
I'm kidding.
Really
Can't-
good.
I'm kidding.
All right, at this time, council, we're looking for a motion.
Sir, I make a motion that we accept 9.1 as presented.
Okay. Can you read the
Do I have to read it all?
Yeah, it's got a really good prompt under the BR.
Okay. I move to approve the Umatilla Business Center change order of $596,286.08 to demolish the existing structure and replace it with all new shell.
Thank you for the 8 cents. Can I get a second to the motion, please?
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? You guys have it. You will get the new shell. Thank you so much for presenting tonight, and hopefully the demolition goes well. No takes backs. It's yours
We
now.
do want bathrooms.
We do want.
Yes, we do want bathrooms.
About why there are no urinals.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. This
Eric's
next
got a
one.
documentary on it.
Thank you.
This next one, if I didn't skip an item, should be 9.2, the downtown revitalization grant.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Council. So we do have one new downtown revitalization grant for you to consider. This is the Quick and Go LLC, or the old Chevron, which is getting very, very near being able to be opened. So they submitted the application to help with removal of the old tanks, all of the new asphalt and concrete work. They went into getting those new tanks in, as well as painting. Really, they tore that building all the way down to pretty much the bones and have replaced pretty much the entire outside shell and some additional lighting. The total project cost for that were over $1 million, so they certainly meet the 75% threshold. So city staff is recommending the maximum award of the $26,500 for that grant. Happy to answer any questions if you have questions for me.
Nope, just proud of Juan for doing all this good work. So
That looks great.
Yeah, it does.
Certainly does look great down there.
it really does. Yeah.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion to approve the grant 9.1 grants of
9.2.
9.2, I'm sorry. 26,500 for the each recommended business for the total of 26,500.
Thank you. Can I get a second to the motion, please?
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? You guys have it. Thank you. 9.3, city representative on the Umatilla Chamber Board.
I promise this is my last one.
Oh, Brandon.
So per the updated personal service agreement between the city of Umatilla and the Umatilla Chamber of Commerce in January of odd number years, we are supposed to bring the city council will make a recommendation for who will serve as the city's representative on the chamber board. That for the last 3 or 4 years has been myself, just as workloads continue to grow and we're getting new people into new positions. Maricela was planning to be here tonight, but she was out sick today with the crud that everybody seems to have right now. After talking through with Dave, both of us are recommending that we appoint Maricela Morales, our community development manager, to be the new city representative on the board. I will certainly tag along for the first couple of months and make sure the transition goes smoothly. But that is our recommendation. That will have to be confirmed by the chamber board, most likely at our board meeting tomorrow.
Thanks, Brandon. Any questions? All right, I call for a motion.
I move to recommend appointment of Maricela Morales to the city representative, Umatilla Chamber of Commerce Board of Directors.
Thank you. Can we get a second to the motion, please?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you very much. Moving on to 9.4. Resolution 18/2025. This is Brandon. What do we got? Oh, Melissa.
Take it. So the city is working on our large water project in partnership with the city, the tribes, and the data centers. As part of that project, there were a couple of really long lead time items, mainly generator transfer switches. And so to make sure that we can meet our ultimate project deadlines, we did issue an RFP to procure those specific items. We received 2 responses. However, one of them was not considered a responsive bid. And ultimately, we are recommending award in the amount of $374,088 Western States Equipment Company.
Why was the other bid not responsive?
I think it was a bond issue.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
That's fun. Okay.
It was a higher cost to begin with, so ultimately, yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Any questions from council at this time? Okay, we're looking for a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion. We approve new business item 9.4, resolution 18-2025, award Western States Equipment Company a contract in the amount of $374,088.
Thank you. Can we get a second to the motion, please?
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? The ayes have it. On 9.5, ask Council President DeFloff to sign Resolution 17/2025, a resolution formalizing City Council's decision regarding the city manager's complaint against Mayor Sipe. This is my fault. That was talk to my legal counsel about it. They recommend that I not sign it due to it being a conflict of interest. So I just wanted to bring that to you guys and just say, hey, don't want to get in trouble for anybody else. We're just going to kind of cover our own bases here and just have you guys give it to a motion.
Yeah, the only issue that's coming as a motion is because The only time council president signs is when in the absence of the mayor. Mayor wasn't absent, and so we have to have you pass so that you can have the council president sign. Otherwise, we would have had it go to the council president.
Perfect. Thanks, Dave. Any questions on that one, guys?
No.
All right, we're looking for a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion. We approve new business item 9.5, and I move to direct Council President Dufloff to sign resolution number 17-2025.
Thank you. Can we get a second to the motion, please? I'll second. Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? You guys have it. Thank you. Moving on to our second public comment for the night. I know, Chief, you had anyone on that one? Oh, we always got a winner. All right. Thanks. Josiah Barron.
I'm back.
Welcome back.
I thought I'd switch it up tonight. Go at the end. Josiah Barron, Executive Director of Umatilla Chamber of Commerce, 100 Klein Avenue. First, I wanted to say thank you to Brandon for your time and service on the Chamber of Commerce Board. Been good for the few years that I've been at the Chamber as a director. It's been good working with you, and it's been interesting. I've been a part of those discussions with the board and yourself. I know you are always a level head, switching your hats back and forth, thinking from the chamber business perspective, from the city perspective. So thank you, and look forward to working with Marcella. Just a couple announcements here. If you want to help support your local businesses and you hadn't heard about the Eastern Oregon Go Reader's Choice Awards. So that's the Eastern Oregon Go, if you remember, just a quick reminder, it's that insert that the East Oregonian puts into their, and the Hermiston Herald would put into their, that has all day entertainment and different things that happen throughout Umatilla, Morrow, Union, Baker, Wallowa, and their coverage area. But there, it is currently open right now on for the 2025 Eastern Oregon Go Reader's Choice Awards. There's categories ranging from businesses, restaurants, activities, and the arts. You can go on there and vote for your favorite businesses, your favorite places that you think have the greatest customer service. And I was looking on there, and there wasn't very many. I didn't notice any Umatilla businesses on there yet. So that's why I encourage you to, we've got some, as Umatilla has been growing, we've got some great restaurants, some great shops, and some amazing people that work at those businesses. Because I'm sure that Councilor Dufloff would, as also the Bridge Bistro and Brews being a Chamber of Commerce member, be glad to have your vote. But just a couple other things, and you can go onto the Chamber of Commerce Facebook page, and I have it's towards the top still, the link to the Eastern Oregon Go's website that has the portal for voting, and you can look at all the categories there. And also coming up in February, Saturday, February 8th from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m., Tours Correctional Institution is having another one of their meet and greet hiring events. So if you're looking for a career change, or if you know somebody that's looking for a job as a correctional officer, that's February 8th from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. And then also, the last thing I had is just a reminder from a couple of our members, the Oregon Human Development Corporation and Workforce Oregon, just a public service announcement that the migrant seasonal farm worker representative, Hilda Martinez from WorkSource Oregon, she will be available every Monday at the OHDC office in Hermiston. So if you're not able to catch her because she's out in the field a lot, meeting with the farm workers. But if you're not able to catch her at the workforce office, she's there Tuesday through Friday then you can also go by the OHDC office there on the corner of East Gladys and Highway 395 and talk with her there too. Oh yes, times are probably important for that. For on those Mondays that she's there would be 8 a.m. to 12 p.m. and 1 p.m. to 3 p.m. But this is also, you can go to Workforce Oregon site, Facebook page. We also have it on the Chamber's Facebook page and Instagram as well. Any events coming up and different things, I try to also cross-reference the cities and Parks and Recs page, get those added on the Chamber events calendar too. But different local events, we have our different members events on there, and city events, different things going on at umatillorchamber.org. Thank you again, Council.
Thanks, Josiah. Thank you.
Next up, we have discussion item 11.1, Police Department Funding Analysis.
Yeah, so Matt Donahue is going to join us tonight. I previously worked with Matt back in 2014 when we did our sewer refunding bonds. Matt also recently worked with the Umatilla School District on their bond issuance and is aware of the unique challenges and opportunities that some of the bond language in our recent enterprise zone agreements provides. We did have Matt take a look at several different financing options for the police department, and so I'll turn the floor over and pipe in if I need to.
Thanks, Melissa. Can everyone hear me all right?
Yep.
Okay, great. Yeah, I think my name is Matt Donahue, working for Mesero Public Finance out of Portland, Oregon. Have had the pleasure of working a fair bit in Umatilla over the last, I would say 10, 12 years with the city on a refinancing the last 2 school district bonds and also the hospital district building. So, yeah, kind of went through this with the school district a couple of years ago. So we learned a lot in that process, and I think that'll be a benefit to the city. Staff asked me to present some options for financing the new police station. And one is a non-voter approved, what we call full faith and credit option. And then there's 3 different general obligation bonds, which would require voter approval. These are certainly not the only options, but I thought they kind of span the spectrum to provoke discussion and raise some of the issues that the city would consider. So we'll start with the non-voter approved, sometimes we call it a limited general obligation, because you're pledging all of your existing available revenues. Unlike the GO bond, you don't get the extra revenue from the new tax levy. But it's a good place to start just to get a sense of what the scope and the scale of annual debt service would be towards your budget. In all of these scenarios, we zeroed in on a projected cost, which I think Melissa said was maybe on the high end of $24.2 million. And there's a lot of numbers on this page, but I think the one of most interest is the bottom line there, the average annual debt service, which over 30 years pay off $24.2 million with a what we call level debt service structure. So kind of like a mortgage structure, we pay the same every year. That annual debt service under current market conditions is coming in right around $1.5 million. So if you go to the next page, you could see it's not a very exciting graph, but you could see how after the first year, since we're assuming a September of 25 issuance, that creates a shortened time period in that fiscal year. But over the life of it, you're looking at 1.48, 1.5 million, just to round up to a number over the next 30 years. Any questions about that? Or we can leave questions to the end if you would like.
Any questions, council?
No.
No questions at this time.
Okay. Great. Moving on to the geo bond financing options, which are a little more exciting if you're into that sort of thing. But because of the data centers and the agreements with the data centers, it opens up a lot of possibilities and a lot of different structures to consider for the city. As I said, these aren't the only options, but they do kind of present a spectrum with various pros and cons. Here on this table, you see there's three options. First one is essentially the option which repays the debt in the shortest amount of time with the least amount of total debt service. And when we spread that debt service over that 14 years and account for the growth in the assessed value that the city is projected to have, you're looking at a levy rate of 49 cents per $1,000 of property value, taxable property value. So it's a levy rate under 50 cents for the vote for the property taxpayers over a 14-year term. Total debt service about $30.6 million. With, if you see at that bottom line, 92.16% of the debt service to be paid by data center taxable value, as well as payments under the new data center agreements for reimbursement of GeoBond debt service. Also, if you look in the middle or sort of the fourth line down, there's a couple measures of the interest cost. That line says all in TIC. That stands for all in true interest cost, which is essentially the APR of this borrowing or any of the borrowings, and takes into account all of the costs of issuance of the financing. So 14-year term is the shortest, it's the least amount of debt service, always also going to have the lowest true interest costs in the scenarios. The second option is a structure in which you stretch out the payments over 25 years to get that annual levy rate down as not as low as possible, but close to be as low as possible. And that has an annual levy of 24 cents per $1,000 on taxable value. So you're stretching out 25 years, you're halving the tax rate for the taxpayers, but it's considerably more debt service because you defer more principal and you pay more interest over the life, just like going from a 15-year mortgage to a 30-year mortgage. The debt service on that is a little over 46 million. And since we're pushing more debt service over a longer period, and a period in which the data center values start to take up more and more of the total values, that of these scenarios has the highest percentage by a couple percentage points of the debt service to be paid by the data center property value.
What was the
And
price per $1,000 on option 2?
It's on that fourth line from the bottom, 24 cents per $1,000.
Thank you.
Yeah. And then option 3 is kind of the middle scenario, where we don't stretch it out as far as we can. We pay it in between the 14-year and the 25-year. We get that levy rate down to 30 cents per $1,000. And average annual debt service about 2.1 million a year, with 93.5% paid by the data centers. So I think, as you can see, what this illustrates is you can pay it off quickly. It'll cost more on the tax rate, And it will be over sooner. So then 14 years, you could go back to the voters and perhaps continue that levy rate for another project and be doing so with a lot more of Amazon or other data center value, but you're not taking full advantage of the growth of the data center value over the next 20, 25 years. Option 2 is to stretching it out, lowering that rate as low as possible. Option 3 is kind of the middle scenario.
So councilors, if I may, part of the reason that we decided to have Matt run these scenarios, we have talked about full faith and credit in the past, and that definitely still is an option. But really it's the opportunity cost and what is your comfort. So we look at the loan payment of 1.5 million. I've heard a lot of things tonight about discussions about enterprise zone dollar distributions. For some context, right now, our current property taxes that we're receiving a year are approximately 3 million. So that loan payment would take up about half of our current property taxes that are coming in, which is substantial. And so there would need to be some discussions had about what is the opportunity cost about taking on this debt. Do we cut something? Are we not able to do something? And so could we afford it? Yes, we'd have to have some tough conversation. But then I saw shocking numbers, over 90% of what the data centers would pay for the facility if we went for a GO bond, which was pretty compelling to at least bring it forward as a discussion and get some guidance on what your comfort level was.
I think, go ahead.
Oh, so I know that the PDX that's off of Powerline, the one that's in the enterprise zone, right? We only have 2 in the enterprise zone, correct, at this time?
So if I can answer your question, is how many of the data centers have a GO bond paying their quote fair share towards a general obligation bond in their contract? Is that your
Yes.
question?
Yes.
So the answer to that is 3 data centers.
Okay. Okay. It's my understanding when they built the new one that's off Powerline, the agreement was that part of that wasn't on the tax roll and they came on day one, correct? And therefore that's what helped the school bond to pass as well.
It's not on the tax roll, but they're liable for the GO bond levied debt related to specific things only. So it would not cover recreation bonds, but it does cover
Law enforcement?
public health, public safety, and education.
Thank you. So it does help the hospital district, school, and it would help the fire department. I mean, does it help the fire department?
Fire department would be eligible, yeah, they
then
fall under
also
public
the-
safety.
Right. And then also fire department, police department.
Fire department, police department, school district, and
School.
and that's it, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Education and public safety.
My head's swimming.
Yeah, it's getting late.
And public health, so the hospital district as well.
So my question is we've talked a lot about how does $1.5 million impact us? And just tonight alone, we spent $970,000. So my concern is that, yeah, 1.5 means that we're going to have to cinch our belts a little bit. But I think we're in a position right now where we need to be more fiscally conservative within our city. I think that passing this on to, even though 25 cents per thousand is a very minimal bond question, and especially when Amazon's taking 95% of the bill, I think this asks more of a question, though, of are we good citizens of our public dollars and how they're being spent? We lose $1.1 million on Rock the Locks. So we don't do a Rock the Locks event and suddenly we're going to be able to afford a new police department building? I think that's a fair shake. So I think the question is that we need to be more fiscally conservative and consider the impact that a bond has within our citizens. For a $500,000 home at assessed value, it's $125 a year. It's not a lot.
Right.
But it is to some of our smaller families in our community. It is a bigger question mark where we do need to consider the impact that this has long term for the next 30 years.
Well, yeah, I mean, definitely, I completely agree with you. Now, there's so many caveats to that comment about the rock the locks deal. You know, when we're bringing in revenue to our area, that's substantially, I mean, that's just a bigger conversation, regardless. But at the end of the day, no, I agree, we need to be fiscally sound. That's hence my pressure with the engineer, you know. I just want to make sure that what we have coming on the payroll or coming on the roll soon is going to substantially help this as well. So, but those are other discussions, you know. But I agree, impacting some of these families, $100 a year, that could be substantial, especially right now.
Yeah.
There's so much transition.
And I think that on that point too is, are we gonna be able to get public support? I think the 25 cents, a quarter for a police officer, that's an easy campaign. But I think it has a bigger impact though of within our community, does it have support?
Sorry, Leslie.
No
No,
comment, sorry.
Um,
I'd love to hear it though. Talk to me
yes.
after.
No, I completely agree. Fortunately, we live in an area that we're not even close to compression. You know, a lot of the people are moving from Hermiston over here because of the taxes. It's really expensive to live and work and have a business in Hermiston. So I would love for us to stay there. But as we grow, I think we're going to have to, if we want to have that bigger police department and we want to have other things, I think we're going to have to present that. And I think we're going into a time now that public safety is becoming paramount, and
Mhm.
people are seeing that. And I think we can get some support.
Yeah. Yeah,
It's not the same as it was 10 years ago or 5 years ago.
Yep.
So,
And I agree. And I think that my point is that not that we should not build this building.
Sure.
Is that I think we shouldn't put it on the backs of the taxpayers. And instead we need to, as a city, as an organization, decide where are we going to start making sacrifices so that we better serve our community in a way that we're not going out for a bond for something that is a public service that we've known for years, that we known was coming down the books. And if we have the financial option to pay for it, I think that we need to float that bill. Especially, I mean, just in one day. Talking about almost $1 million.
I hear what you're saying. The funds that we allocated towards the business center tonight, those come from different sources. It is
Right.
important to remember that different things are paid from different places.
different pots.
And the city has been pretty responsible as far as leveraging outside funds in order to complete projects. The one that we were talking about tonight, we're building the building next door without taking out any debt, which is very responsible of us. We also are one of the only local jurisdictions around us that I know of that don't have any outstanding GO levy debt. We paid off our water bond. We refinanced our sewer bond to get a more favorable rate so that we could pay it off quicker and take care of that. So
Correct. No,
we can talk about what different services or programs may cost money. Overall, we're pretty responsible with our finances.
We also refinanced and then paid off this city hall debt early as well to.
Oh, without a doubt. I mean, we definitely understand that you guys are leveraging the money that we get. You know, if we get $1 million, we can leverage it for 10. I completely, and that's how we make.
And that's
And
kind
I
of
think-
what we're looking at here. We get Amazon to pay over 90%
Right.
and don't have the opportunity costs. That's something to consider.
Right.
And that's one of the points I wanted one of the comments we've heard as we've talked about, not enterprise zones here a little bit tonight and others as well, is that this idea of Amazon quote paying their fair share. And I want to also recommend or notice that we have more than just one data center company here now. And if we go with the full faith and credit bond, you're talking about you can, depending on how you want to argue that, anywhere between 0 to 25% of Amazon paying for that, because one data center is completely off of all the abatement program and paying into it. So they're part of the ad valorem. They would, excuse me, those dollars that are paid into that would go towards that cost. These options get it over 90% in every scenario and having them chip in and paying that, to the extent that that was part of the reason why, as we were negotiating these enterprise zones, as we looked at public health, public safety and education, was getting that into those contracts so that we could get to this point to ask the voters if you want Amazon to pay for 90% of this facility, or do you want to pay for 75% of it, or Amazon pay for 25% of it?
No, I remember those discussions, and in particular, that was a huge thing when the school bond came through, is that they were getting substantial, that Amazon was making their fair contribution from day one. Well, not from, you know what I mean?
Close as we can get.
Yeah, close.
I think it's also a really, good point to mention as well as, how many projects the city currently has on its books right now and how many, are done, how many are getting close to finish. Like the walking bridge got finished. There's certain projects that the business center is still looming. So there's certain things from a public perception standpoint of we need to start getting more projects done. And I fear that's going to be an issue with the number of projects that we have versus how many we've actually gotten done. And I think that's going to be a concern.
Yeah. I always say government takes forever. Working for the state, I already know.
So time is not our friend right now. We would be looking at a May ballot. And so we do need direction from council on how to move forward. What you think,
We're not looking for a decision tonight, but what we're looking at is, do you, out of what's here, would you like us to prepare a little bit of a deeper dive and what a levy would look like, or what an ask might look like, and we could bring that as quickly as your next meeting?
I would like to have like a workshop and have further discussion about this, me personally, just to kind of,
So this will be on your
just to mill this over.
February 1st, as Julie Torvald, this will be one of those items that's on your workshop. So this, and later in your agenda, we're talking about your council rules as well. We'll talk about that when we get to that item on the agenda, but that'll also be part of that workshop as well.
Yeah, me personally, I would like to just chew on it more.
I think it's a good idea.
I think it's also one of those situations where I think how much public polling have we done as well? And what is the temperature of the citizens and the public? I think that's a question that we need to also explore.
Yeah.
yeah, and we kind of briefly asked Matt to look at that. Matt, I don't know if you have anything that you want to add on your thoughts on recent measures similar that have passed.
Yeah, I mean, I think the best comparable in this situation is the school bond. It's the one that has situation with the same situation with data centers paying a very large portion of the debt service on that levy, which helps bring down that levy rate substantially. If vis-a-vis if the city were going to go out just on its non-data center values. And that passed with a higher levy rate ask than what you're doing here. Devil's all in the details about the projects, and education, K-12 education is different from public safety. But I have worked over the last several years on a handful of police station bonds, and they've all passed. Milton Freewater passed one a few years ago. St. Helens. I'm going to forget some, but yeah, public safety, anecdotally has been very supported on bond elections, and I would say the last 5 years or so. Oh, Malala, that's the other one that just passed.
I think further discussion for sure. I don't necessarily think saying now definitively a dual bond where we should go is the answer. I think we need to consider what I forget full credit. What's the term, Melissa? I keep forgetting. What's the
Full faith and credit.
Thank you. Full faith and credit, I think, is something we should still explore and look at where we could cut, how that would trim, what would a budget look like with that in mind for the next 20 years.
Yeah, if we can just table it till then, can we do that? Not table it, but just.
Yeah, it's a discussion. More discussion on the February 1st date.
So if I can rephrase that comment, Mayor, if we were to have the 1.5 million year, if we were to bring you sort of a options list of services that may either need to be reduced or eliminated as part to sort of equal that same dollar amount? Is that what you're asking for? Is something like that?
Yep.
Okay.
What was something we could trim that would allow us to absorb the cost of the bond?
Okay.
Yeah, and then also I would like to again revisit the GeoBond stuff. Only because I think it's all wonderful to, for us to strap on the burden, but I think Jeff needs to pay his share.
Yeah, I think it's kind of nice to have Amazon get a huge chunk of the bill.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yep.
And of course, at the end of the day, it'd be up to the voter.
It's up to
anyway.
voters. I mean,
Yeah.
that's the big thing for me is it's all about the voters.
Yeah.
Let them.
Well, and I think that's one of the points I wanted to make sure that we touched on here is that we've prioritized and identified that this project needs to happen. That facility is, geez, I think 5 decades old, and was not really designed to meet the growth that is here for that department. It's lived its useful life, and so it's meant to be updated. And so the idea here is exactly what Melissa mentioned here earlier, and that is that the facility is going to be built. So the question just becomes on if we go with the full faith and credit and not go to GeoBond, then those dollars that are going towards that become the opportunity cost. What are some, and that's kind of why I asked the court clarifying question, Mayor, is what are some of the other services that might have to be either temporarily suspended, reduced, or eliminated altogether to cover that? Or if we go with the GeoBond, we're able to cover those services and then continue to invest that other 1.5 million towards other services.
Yeah, like I said, I just think we have a bigger discussion on
Yeah.
first.
And we're not limited to just one. If it is the council's desire after further conversation to pursue the GEO bond and the voter don't approve it,
Right.
then there's the conversation that we could have on what is the opportunity
Right.
and pursuing full faith and credit.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I think that's one of the questions, and we've talked about it before, is I really think it's a really bad idea for the voters to say, no, we don't want a new police building, and then for us to turn around and build it anyway. I think that's really disrespectful. to
And
the citizens.
messaging, though, if you tell them it's being built no matter what, would you rather us?
It's gonna,
provide
it has
services?
to.
We need one.
We,
At
we
the end
have
of the
to
day,
have
we
it.
have to.
So it's just messaging.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't think that message is either approve it or it's not being built. The message is we're going to build it. There are 2 ways in which we can build it. We can fund it this way.
Right.
And that has an opportunity cost, or we can fund it this way.
Correct.
And move it forward. But so which way would you like us to fund it? That's the question.
Like it.
Any further questions or concerns? Okay, moving on to 11.2 landing.
Thank you,
gate.
Matt.
What was that, Dave?
Thank you, everybody. Have a
Oh,
good night.
thank
Thank
Matt.
you, sir.
Yeah, you bet.
Moving on to 11.2, the landing days discussion. Moving landing days to a 1-day event.
All right, we'll have Esmeralda go ahead. You want to start that? You want me to start it? All right. All right, you got it. All right, we provided just very basic, high-level numbers for you attached to the agenda bill. So landing days has been a 2-day event, I think, as long as most can remember. I've been told that it's been a single-day event once upon a time, but it's been a while. You can see it costs the city about it's about a $55,000 community event. We do get lots of, I'm sorry, it's about a $70,000 community event. We get about $55,000 or so in revenue that comes from the event, mostly from sponsors. We do get some from vendors and things like that, but the event is free to the community. Our Friday activities, are about almost as expensive as Saturday, and our numbers for each Friday have been pretty consistent each of the last 2 years. We get about 1,300 people that come and attend the event. when you compare that with what happens on Saturday out there, we're averaging about 8,500 that come on Saturday. We're getting about 4 times the revenue that comes from both sponsors and vendors and so on. And it's really kind of dawn to dusk type of event. Kicks off the morning with the parade, has the event, ends with fireworks. We're looking at is continuing it as a 2-day event with the resources, with staff and other resources affiliated with that on Friday. Is the sort of proverbial juice worth the squeeze to continue on Friday, or do we can put all our efforts into what Saturday is? There's no real difference as far as setup of the venue and the event. Stages are set up, vendors are set up, all that happens. On Friday, it's sort of landing days light. We don't have all the vendors out there because they're not necessarily all available. And a lot of them, because our numbers are so low on Friday, have said it's just not worth their time to come out on Friday. They actually lose money if they come on Friday, and so they're willing to come Saturday. And so we're looking at seeing if there was interest in focusing on Saturday only, or if we wanted to continue to run it as Friday and Saturday. Anything else you wanted to add, Esmeralda?
Yeah, so the vendor revenue here is only from food vendors. Because of the low attendance, our craft vendors have chosen not to participate on Friday. So there we have about 42 craft vendors and informational booth that attend Saturday only anyways. They don't particularly like how the low attendance on Friday. So we've made it to where they can just come and set up on Saturday morning and dismantle their booth Saturday night after the fireworks.
Yeah, I don't know when we started doing 2 days. I can't remember, but I remember it being 1 day forever. And again, it's a Saturday deal. And it doesn't lend itself for Friday. It's just different because the craft vendors, most of them are working people and they come in and do that. I'd be supportive of the single day event for sure.
So yeah, Friday's mostly just for high school students and middle school students that show up to the event and walk down after school on Friday afternoons and call it See a Student Day.
It would be nice if they showed up and I put them to work, but
yeah, I mean that's how I spent a lot of those days is being helping up. Annie was there, doing lots of, and so was Madison. Yeah.
Be careful.
Doing lots and lots of work of being student labor and helping out and getting things set up on that Friday beforehand, but.
With the high cost of everyone wanting to charge a lot for even entertainment, it would allow us to invest for a better entertainment for Saturday and not have to distribute that between Friday and Saturday with the low attendance of Friday.
Yeah,
That's a perk.
I personally would support the single day Saturday.
Yeah, I would too.
I do also want to be a little bit clear on that note, Esmeralda. We're pushing the venue almost at its max right now. The last couple of years, if you've seen, we've completely filled the marina parking lot. We're overflowing into the BIA property that's there. We can probably add maybe another 500 people, and then that venue is maxed out. And so, as much as we would invest on Saturday, we'd also have to be sort of delicate on not pushing it too far to where we've outgrown the venue. So. We'll have to monitor that.
When the marina gets all rebuilt, is it going to have a higher capacity for people? Like if it did grow?
Yeah, the concept marina master plan added, I believe it wasn't a lot more. It was like 106 more parking spaces there, but it wasn't a lot.
Something.
It was some.
We got to change it to landing day.
Yeah, it's singular. A lot of signs to fix. All
I
right.
think it used to be landing day and then we made it.
landing
day.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
landing. Sounds good.
Yeah, I think still one of those things again where, I mean, we have Facebook, we just put out a Google form, have people fill it out, just see what public opinion is. If they really want it to be 2 days, it's costing us $10,000.
True.
I mean, we just don't do concert venues that day. We could save money doing different things and then invest more on Saturday. And if they really want to have it a 2 day event, we still can, but I think we just ask the community first and see what their opinion is of it. I think we bring that to the next discussion.
Okay.
Okay, I think that's any other discussion questions at this time. Okay, moving on to 11.3, the council policies, procedures, initial preview.
Yeah, so we just attached your currently adopted policies and procedures. In the manual here, it says that by March 31st of your odd numbered years, you'll review and make any updates or changes to your adopted policies and procedures. Staff doesn't have any recommended changes or anything right now. What we wanted to do today is just open it up for general discussion. If there was anything in particular, sections that you wanted us to ask either the League of Oregon Cities or CIS or someone else to take a look at, provide any updated specific sections. And if you don't have those today, that's okay too. We'll bring those more on February 1st. But if you had some initial thoughts on those, we'll look at that. We'll provide you, as we run through the workshop, a couple of examples of some that have been updated throughout, like for example, in employee handbooks and now in council policies, people are adopting AI policies and the use of AI and stuff like that. So these are all sort of new things about what staff is doing, what council should or shouldn't be doing. But for the most part, that, you know, I don't know if that has a place in here or not. But this is meant to guide first what the charter and code state for. These are the rules to run your meetings. That's the primary purpose of this manual. And then some of your other operations that might come along with it. So I just wanted to introduce the discussion here now. If you had anything specific you'd like us to come prepared with for the first, and then we'll come with additional items as well, as we will bring you the LOC template, and we'll email these to you in anticipation of that meeting, and we'll actually attach it when there'll be an agenda that goes out for your February 1st tour and workshop, and we'll attach those items on there so the public can see what you're reviewing as well. But I just wanted to start with that.
Yeah, I read through it numerous times. A couple of things I'd want to highlight, but I'll send you over an email with what things I've got questions over and some different items.
Sure thing.
Yeah, I think there's some clerical stuff in here, but other than that, we just need to clean up some stuff.
And can I ask about the general, at the moment it's organized alphabetically. That doesn't seem like the greatest way to organize this. And so there's other examples that are out there that are more topical rather than alphabetical. I think so. Just the way in which it's organized needs to be completely
The LOC
redone.
one is organized by topic.
Correct.
I think we should just
Mirror
use
that.
LOCs.
Yeah, I'd be okay with
kind
that. I
of
agree.
table of contents and index
Yeah.
run with it.
Sure.
And I think some things have changed since maybe this has been updated. Because going to League of Oregon Cities, there was some stuff that contradicts some of the stuff in here. So I want to make sure that we kind of just go through it and see if we're in line with what LOC is directing us to do.
Yeah, so LOC comes up with an update at least once a year. Occasionally they sort of have a mid-year update. One of the things, those that have been to elected essentials recently, they were handing out stickers, you know, what does your charter say? So LOC template accounts for, this is anecdotal, but 80 to 90% of what most policies are of what that LOC template is. And the rest of it is that customized stuff that has to do with the 241 different charters that exist in the state of Oregon. And so the LOC is a terrific template. It's a great place for us to look at. And then we'll want to look at that and then cross-reference that with our charter and with our code and see what sort of customizations we might need for ours. And then, of course, that needs to run through a pretty rigorous legal review as well. But we'll send that to them after we run through our workshop and have our plain language conversation, and then we'll let the attorney take a look at it too.
I like it.
That's great. Any other further questions, council? Okay, moving on to the mayor's message. Real quick, I just want to say thank you to all the Enterprise Zone people who showed up to speak today. Thank you for the teachers union for showing up. It's always good to see your guys' faces in the audience. Also want to highlight someone who has shown up to a lot of meetings lately, but his topic has been missed. And it's, sir, I forget your name. You're in the orange hat. You do work for Valhalla Poker Room. Is that correct? And you brought up a topic, I believe, last year about increasing the amount used to place a bet for your games. And I definitely think that is something that we talked about. Want to make sure that gets finished. And so that's definitely one of the things I'm going to talk to Dave about to make sure that's an agenda item, that we have a broader discussion on increasing the allowable game value. And I want to appreciate and just notice you for being here consistently. And you have been unfortunately pushed off to the side. So we're going to make sure you get back on the agenda and let's make it right. Hey, but you show up. So we appreciate it. We want to make sure that you're recognized for the hard work that you do in our community, and every voice counts. So we want to make sure you're heard. Appreciate it. Well, don't ask too much. I'll put you to work.
Troy and I have been meeting off and on for the last several months working on
Perfect.
that.
Yeah, let's just see if we can get that on the agenda and see if we can get that pushed along. Thanks, Dave. Now I want to highlight, thank you so much for everyone being here again tonight. And we really appreciate you guys showing up and making sure you guys' voices are heard and that you're not being ignored. We really do appreciate it. Now to council information and discussion, we got Corrine Funderburk. Go ahead and kick us off, please.
So thank you all for sitting here this long, and I appreciate everybody coming and speaking. I want to also congratulate our distinguished budget award. It's been a road that is no easy task. And I think that for the police information from you, Chief, thank you very much. Also from our Parks and Rec, that was all the things you do. Just thank you and for all you provide for us.
Councilmember DeFluff.
Thanks for bringing the alert system thing forward. That's really going to help out, I think, reaching out to our constituents. I like that we're working with regional partners. I can remember not so long ago that Umatilla was kind of a bedroom community, and we're far from that anymore. I think we're definitely sitting at the table for our region, which is fantastic. And we play a vital role as well with everybody else. So I think it's important for us to remember that and maintain and foster those relationships as we move forward. Great job on the audit. That's fantastic. I always like it when, not that I want to sit at home and read this thing, but maybe I should. Enterprise zones. So I don't know a lot about them, but I'm going to educate myself. So I promise you coming here and enlightening me, I'm going to educate myself on how that works. I want to know, when I hear Wasco County, Umatilla County, in my mind, the first thing I think of is they're a county or a city. How does that work? What does that look like? Does that mean that Umatilla County needs to be involved and they need to pay more? Or how does that, I don't know how that works. So just, please give me a moment to figure it out. I will educate myself. I promise you that. But I also want to make sure that you guys understand that we believe that these taxing districts are important. It's by any means, maybe it's not showing it, maybe it's my naivety, maybe it's my ignorance, I don't know. But I want to make sure you guys know that I realize that if my house or my business catches on fire, I have to have water. When I sit on my back deck, I don't want to be eaten by mosquitoes. My son is a police officer. I want his radio to work. I'm glad that my children went to school here, and I go to the clinic. So I frequent the hospital. So make sure that those resources are available as we move forward. Yes. And again, I feel like Stretch Armstrong sometime because, there's things that are vying for them. We talked about major projects that we have to have. We have some infrastructure that we have to get taken care of. Granted, that's why we haven't built things. Speaking of that, squirrel, sorry. But I just want you to know that it's no less important to me. I'm going to educate myself how the process works. The monument, whatever you want to call it, 730 and 395 looks fantastic. Was it something that we needed to spend money on? No. Is it something that we wanted to spend money on for years and years because it looked, what we had there wasn't representing the city that we know? Correct. And I think it's fantastic. It looks really good. I can't wait till it's all lit up and looks fantastic. And do we know when we're gonna do a ribbon cutting or ceremonial dedication or anything? Do we have a date on that?
We don't have a date on that
Okay.
yet.
Okay.
I'm not,
Stand on the other side of the road. We just turn it off.
we may set a camera up and do something here,
No.
do sort of a remote, yeah.
Have a switch and turn it on.
No, I want my vest. I want a vest. I want to stand out there in the cold with you.
I'll put your word on that. All right. I'll stand next to you, Darren. Yeah. Yeah. Really post on Facebook, get a lot of public attention on it. Yeah.
That's exactly right. And again, I thank everybody for coming up here. And Leslie said earlier, it is scary standing up there and voicing your opinion, especially when there's points of contention. I have to tell you, to be honest with you, I'm 58 years old. I shouldn't have anxiety coming to a city meeting, because I care. And, we may have this difference of opinions and different perspectives and different perceptions and all of that stuff. But the thing that is common is we all have the best intentions involved. I want you to understand that. There's a lot of stuff that, we've had some missteps with some clerical stuff and some procedural stuff with the city. But I can guarantee you sitting right here today, there's nobody that's going to infringe upon your rights as a citizen or your rights as a Umatilian or anything to do with any misappropriation of funds or anything in that nature while I'm here. I promise you that. I have the highest regard for the people that we have in our community. So with that, that's enough. Sorry I took so long.
Okay. Thank you. Councilmember
I
McMillan.
had a pile of stuff I wanted to talk about today, like a pile of it, but
Sorry,
for
I
the
took your
sake-
time.
Well, you wasted all my time there, sir. No,
I'm
it's just
sorry.
we ran really long, and so I'm just gonna cut it down to a couple things. I do like this is my first term, and I really don't know tons about enterprise zones, but I am glad you guys did bring this stuff up. And I talked to Darla last week, and I really appreciate the time. And I do, like Darren, I really want to learn more about this and understand it. Like, I have a list of questions, and so I need to go through it and figure out how it all works. I really do. I understand the frustration. I get it. And I do thank you for bringing it to our attention. And like I said, it's my first term. I got a lot of stuff to learn. It's like a crash course and stuff. So, but anyway, it doesn't go unheard. It's just, we get to a certain point and then all of a sudden there's other things that pile up. And, I'm sorry that sometimes things just don't take precedence, but I promise, like Darren, I will look into it. Okay. And, thanks guys for all that you do. And I appreciate, presenting all your things. And Chief, I was glad to see that you wrote in there, integrity, professionalism, and compassion. I think that the PD, Umatilla PD has compassion, and that's what like a lot of cities don't have, and it's kind of missing from the police departments. And that's what sets you guys apart. And I really think so, because like you guys have the human element, and some don't. Some of the towns I've lived in the past didn't, and I might have been because I was a hooligan too back then, but still, I appreciate that. And Esmeralda, like, there's like always something going on. So, it's like, it's cool to see all this stuff. I didn't even realize some of the stuff you guys do. I mean, it's pretty cool though. And you do have, a lot going on. And I don't know, it's just great to see the community get together for all these little things there, and especially when they're selling out and, getting booked out and stuff. So anyway, thank you. And then to the administration guys, you guys got nice numbers. Yeah, that's all I got to say. No, joking, no. But you guys did a real good job, and congratulations on the award and stuff. And so, anyway, I'll keep it short, and we'll go here, and I'll leave some of the other stuff for next time.
Go ahead, Bruce.
Thank you all for coming. It was stated earlier, and stuff I learned in the planning commission, it can be intimidating to show up and talk. And every bit of it's really appreciated. Even though it does make people uncomfortable, sometimes the process is not set up to be the most comfortable, and that's unfortunate, but we really do want to be here to listen and work with what we get told. Beyond that, being the newest member up here, I really have to say it's becoming apparent to me. It's absolutely wonderful to have a city council that is as experienced as I have. I'm just sitting down here learning, through every discussion. Even though I was a regular attendee, it's a different position. Thank you for the unbelievably great semi-annual reports. I actually did read every one of them before I got here. Looking forward, all you're doing is raising the bar for, future reports. Everybody pretty much said everything.
Perfect. Thanks, Bruce. Okay, at this time, we need a motion to go into executive session.
I just had a quick question, Mayor.
Yep.
Our next item might take about 20 or 25 minutes, which puts us over our 3-hour limit. If council would like to, I'd like to maybe suggest that we ask that we maybe extend to as late as 10:15, if that's something that they wanted to do.
Yeah, council, can we get a motion to extend it 10:15?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, I make a motion that we extend our meeting to 10:15.
Perfect, thank you. Can we get a second with the motion, please?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? The ayes have it. We still need a motion now to go to executive session.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion we go into executive session at this time.
Can I get a second on the motion, please?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, the city council will now meet in executive session pursuant to ORS 1926602H to consult with your attorney regarding your attorney or your legal rights and duties in regard to a current litigation or litigation that is more likely to be filed. Representatives of the news media, city manager, city attorney, finance and administrative director shall be allowed to attend executive session. All other members of the audience are asked to leave the room. Representatives of the news media are specifically directed not to report on or otherwise disclose any deliberations or anything said about these subjects during the executive session, except to state the general topic of the session as previously announced. No decision may be made during executive session. At the end of executive session, we'll return to open session and welcome the audience back to the room.